My name is Angela McCray, a specialist with the Office of School Culture and Climate with Duval County Public Schools. I am the lead trainer in our SAFE program, which is the acronym for Substance Abuse Education and Prevention. Thank you for joining me and learning about how to have those intentional and courageous conversations about substance use with your child. Some of you are probably having these conversations already, but others starting this conversation may be a bit of a challenge. So the goals of the SAFE program is to provide students with earlier prevention and intervention about underage drinking, tobacco, and over-the-counter prescriptions. Also to provide professional development that support teachers in identifying signs and symptoms of substance use, and to also train parents to have intentional and frequent conversations with their children about substance use. The purpose of this training is to increase your awareness and understanding of the risks associated with adolescent substance use and your role in preventing it. As you registered for this training, you should have received a link to complete a pre-test. If you were not able to do so, please hit pause at this time and complete it using the link or QR code on the screen. The test is anonymous and will provide you with insight in today's training. Why this training? Why now? Prior to COVID-19, we were in the midst of a vaping pandemic, which is believed to lead to serious lung injury. Since COVID-19, we have seen an increase in alcohol sales among adults. Children have been home more, around older students and friends that have had a greater influence on them. And let's not forget about social media as a marketing platform, exposing youth to messaging about tobacco and alcohol. The data supports the need for this training. The Youth Risk Behavior Survey has been administered in Duval County Public Schools since 2009. In 2019, 4,128 high school students and 4,724 middle school students completed the YRBS. The results of the YRBS show some positive trends in the right direction, but there is still work to be done to decrease underage drinking and use of tobacco and illegal substances. The Duval County Youth Risk Behavior Survey allows us to better understand risks and behaviors of area youth, evaluate the impact of broad school and community interventions so that we may better develop programs to reduce behaviors that impact students' academic performance. The data shows that 16% of the middle school students surveyed had their first drink of alcohol before age 11, and 6% tried marijuana before age 11. Let's take a closer look at the impact of marijuana, alcohol, and tobacco on our young people. Frequent marijuana use can have a negative effect on the adolescent brain. Some of the potential effects include reduced motivation, difficulty maintaining attention, poor coordination, problems with memory and learning, difficulty thinking and problem solving. When a person smokes marijuana, THC quickly passes from the lungs into the bloodstream. The blood carries a chemical to the brain and other organs throughout the body. So how does alcohol affect the brain? The adolescent brain is not yet fully developed in the prefrontal cortex, an area of the brain that affects their ability to judge a situation, consider consequences, and control their impulses. As a result, they have limited ability to make good decisions and to assess the impact of using alcohol. Alcohol during adolescence can also damage the hippocampus, the area of the brain related to memory, which is essential for learning. Tobacco products contain the highly addictive and harmful chemical called nicotine. It changes the way the brain works. Smoke enters the lungs right away and makes it difficult to breathe, to run, and to play sports. The nicotine and tar sticks to the mouth, causing bad breath and turns the teeth yellow. When burned, tobacco products create more than 7,000 chemicals, and many of them are found in other products, such as acetone, ammonia, arsenic. Knowing these things, then why do adolescents want to use e-cigarette products? Often due to the flavors, maybe it's appealing, or the perception that they receive that there is no harm. Vape is a term used to describe the delivery mechanism of products such as Juul, nicotine, e-juice, THC, and alcohol. Most teens do not know the ingredients in these products. One Juul pod is equivalent to one pack of cigarettes. The flavoring that are put into vapes are also dangerous. The flavoring causes popcorn lung, which interferes with breathing and causes lung injury. Flavoring in pods were banned in vapes a few years ago, but that did not include disposable vapes. Now most teens who vape will choose flavored disposable vapes like Puff Bars. It is important that our children understand the impact of the media's perception about e-cigarettes and vaping products, commonly known as tanks, vape pens, dab pens, and mods. Great exposure to e-cigarette ads is associated with higher odds of youth e-cigarette use. There are many marketing tactics that are being used to lure youth into believing that e-cigarettes are fun and harmless. 14.4 million youth are exposed at retail stores. 10.5 million youth are exposed through the internet or social media. 9.6 million are exposed through TV or movies. 8 million are exposed through magazines and newspapers. No matter how elaborate it may seem, most e-cigarettes contain nicotine, which can cause addiction and harm adolescent brain development. Every 15 minutes, one American dies from an unintentional drug overdose, mostly due to prescription drugs. The message that we want to send to our children is that medicines that come from a doctor are helpful when used correctly and for the right purpose. Never share or take anyone else's prescription medicine. It's against the law. As parents, we can be proactive in preventing the misuse of prescription medicines by reinforcing safe use of prescription medicines and providing safe storage in a locked medicine cabinet. Once you are done with your prescription, there are a few ways to properly dispose of your medication. Many pharmacies have drop boxes. Disposable bags are made just for this purpose, and there are also take-back programs throughout the year with no questions asked. Beginning with the October 2019 campaign, DEA started accepting vaping devices and cartridges in addition to medications at all of its drop-off locations. What you should not do is flush them down the toilet. They get into the water system and can be harmful to the environment and animals. The state program selected the Too Good for Drugs curriculum to develop the skills our young people need to manage and make healthy choices, and to educate them on the dangers of alcohol, tobacco, and marijuana on the adolescent brain. The Too Good for Drugs lessons focus on setting reachable goals, making responsible decisions, effective communication, building relationships, and the effects of alcohol, nicotine, and marijuana. Research over the past 2 decades tried to determine how drug abuse begins and how it progresses. Risk factors can increase a person's chances for substance abuse, while protective factors can reduce the risk. Most individuals at risk for drug abuse do not start using drugs or become addicted. Also, a risk factor for one person may not be for another. Some potential risk factors: include parents who use drugs and alcohol or who suffer from mental illness, substance use among peers, bullying, cyberbullying, friends and peers who engage in alcohol or drug use, conflict between parents or between parents and children, neighborhood violence, norms and laws that are favorable to substance use. Some protective factors listed: having high self esteem, attending a school with policies against using alcohol and drugs, having an adult role model who doesn't use tobacco or drugs, participating in athletic, community, or faith based groups, living in a community with youth activities that prohibit drugs and alcohol, parental involvement, and good coping and problem solving skills. Did you know that children of parents who talk to their teens regularly about drugs are 42% less likely to use drugs than those who don't? Yet, only a quarter of teens report ever having these conversations with their parents. As parents and educators, we often say that prevention is key. Before going to the beach, we encourage our children to put on protective screen. Before going someplace alone, we tell them about the dangers of talking to strangers. If they witness an emergency, we've instructed them to call 911. But what if someone approaches them about alcohol or any of the other substances? What have we told them to do? Even as adults, we have been in situations where we wanted to say no, but did not have the right words and made decisions that were not favorable. Our children find themselves in the same situation. They are unable to walk away because they do not have the skills or the strategies in their toolbox to help them make a good decision. As they approach adolescence, they're going to be influenced by their peers. Let's take a look at a few refusal strategies that you can share with them that will support them in managing peer pressure in any situation. One, steer clear. This helps them to avoid peer pressure before it even starts. When they see a group of kids causing trouble, they can steer clear. Say no. When they're already in a peer pressure situation, have them try saying no thanks or no way. Walk away is another strategy. Think of a safe place. Have them to think of a safe place they can go where they can leave the situation quickly. Ignore. Refuse to pay attention to someone. The broken record is also another one. Just repeat the same thing over and over, whether it's I don't cheat, I don't cheat, I don't drink alcohol, I don't drink, then their peers will quickly get the message. Make an excuse. Have them to think of a real reason not to go along with their friends. They don't have to lie. Have them to think of an example. For instance, my mom told me to come home directly after school. Another one, refuse the pressure, reverse the pressure. Put the pressure back on the person that is pressuring them by saying, why are you pressuring me to do something I do not want to do? And lastly, state the facts. Tell the person pressuring them the possible consequences. If I steal or cheat, I may lose my privileges at home and at school. Conversation starters. Talking to your children early about substance use is key. As they enter middle and high school, the pressure to try illegal substances increases. Talking often with your child builds an open and trusting relationship. Do lots of little talks. Big talks can be overwhelming for both you and your child. You don't have to get everything across in one conversation. Here are a few conversation starters. Are a lot of kids vaping or drinking alcohol at your school? Are your friends vaping? Do you know what is in a Juul pod and other vapes? Do you know how vaping can damage your health? So think about the questions and the kind of information that you ask. Try to think about open-ended questions to encourage participation. So when would be the best time to have these type of conversations? I would say during dinner, maybe in the car. These are times that we have limited distractions, or maybe even during a commercial on TV. Maybe you saw or heard something that would be a great segue into the conversation about some of the topics that we discussed. Be prepared for those tough questions, parents. Don't let your experiences stop you from talking to your child about underage drinking. If you did as a kid, be honest. Admit it, admit that it was risky behavior, and also share the consequences of engaging in that behavior. What do you do? What you do is as important as what you say. If you choose to drink, do so in moderation and never drive when drinking. Be aware of where you keep your alcohol and let your kids know that alcohol in your house is off limits. And also make the distinction between alcohol use among adults and children. Listening with grace. In your conversation, give them your full attention. Understand the feelings behind their words and be sensitive to the emotions being expressed. Also, suspend judgment and listen with compassion. I know this requires us to know our own triggers and how we handle our own emotions. Remember, our children are opening up to us, and what they feel is a safe space. What are some clear rules that you have established with your children? It's always good to have a few non negotiable rules about your children's behavior and state them clearly. For example, give me the phone number of any place that you will be, or no friends in the house when I am not at home. Communication. Regular communication with other parents and teachers keep you involved with your child's activities. Checking up. This can be difficult. Yes, we do want to trust them, but find out about the parties and special events your child wants to attend to make sure there's a responsible adult there supervising. And consistency. Supervision is most effective when parents set clear limits and follow through with consequences for misbehavior. So, how do you supervise when you are not at home? Try making sure that you know your child's schedule. Have your child check in with you or a caregiver when they reach their final destination. We know that it is impossible for you to be with your children at all times. Here are a few protective factors to increase your influence as a parent or a caregiver. You can increase your influence by knowing your child's friends in the neighborhood and at school, staying involved in your child's activities. Talk to your child when a concern comes up, such as spending time with friends you don't know, changes in their speech and their attitude, changes in their schoolwork, sneaking around. Try including your child in social and cultural events in the community and including your child's friends in the family activities. Just remember, parents, you can make a difference. I would like to leave with you this parent pledge. As parents and citizens, we will talk to our children and the children in our lives about the dangers of substance use. We will set clear rules for our children about not using substances. We will set a good example for our children by not using illegal substances or medicine without a prescription. We will monitor our children's behavior and enforce appropriate consequences so that our rules are respected. We will encourage family and friends to follow the same guidelines to keep children safe from substance use. Let's pause here for a minute to take a post test using this link. Thank you, parents, for attending today's training. My name is Angela McCray, a specialist with the Office of School Culture and Climate. Take a minute to complete the evaluation using the link or scan the QR code on the screen. Your feedback is most important. As we continue to develop parent trainings that address the needs of you and your child. Again, my name is Angela McCray. My email address is mcraea1@duvalschools.org. Again, parents, thank you for attending today's training, Courageous Conversations at Home about Substance Use.